The day I found out my mother-in-law could walk perfectly fine, she was dancing in the kitchen to an old country song, the same kitchen I'd been scrubbing for her every morning. I still remember standing there, frozen in the doorway, a dish towel in my hand and soapy water dripping down my wrist. The radio was humming softly, and there she was, Margaret, my mother-in-law moving her hips ever so slightly, humming along to the lyrics of Johnny Cash. Her cane leaned untouched against the counter. For a moment, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. This was the same woman who had cried in pain just 2 nights ago, gripping her knees and groaning, "Sara, honey, I don't think I can walk anymore." The same woman who made my husband Ethan beg me to move in and help out for a while. And the same woman who, for the past 3 months, had turned me from a wife into something closer to her housemaid. But that morning, I saw everything differently. The mask had slipped. The smell of cinnamon and coffee filled the air. I had just baked her favorite apple muffins. She hadn't known I was coming back early from the market, and seeing her sway to the music, light on her feet, smiling to herself like a woman half her age, something inside me went very, very still. I didn't say a word. I just turned, quietly, and walked out the back door, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the music. That was the day I decided to stop being the nice daughter-in-law. But before I tell you what I did, you need to understand how I ended up in that house in the first place. Ethan and I had been married for just over 2 years when everything started. We met in college. I studied nursing. He studied business. He was calm, kind, the kind of man who held doors open and still wrote thank you notes. We lived in a small townhouse in Nashville, close enough to his parents that Sunday dinners were almost a ritual. Back then, I liked Margaret. She had this warm Southern charm, always calling me sweetheart and insisting I take another slice of pie. I used to believe she genuinely liked me, but after the wedding, things shifted. Small things at first. A comment here and there. Ethan never used to like his steak that rare, or, "Sara, dear, maybe let me do the laundry. You don't want to shrink his good shirts." Always said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Still, I brushed it off. I thought she's adjusting, just like we are. Then, a year later, Ethan got a job in another city. We packed our things and moved 2 hours away from his parents' town. That's when our marriage finally started to feel like ours. Lazy weekends, burnt pancakes, quiet mornings with coffee, just the 2 of us. Until the phone call. It was late January. I was folding laundry when I heard Ethan say, "Mom? Slow down, what happened?" I watched his face change from calm to pale worry. When he hung up, he sighed, rubbing his temples. "Mom fell again," he said. "She's not doing well, Sara. Her doctor says she shouldn't be alone." Of course I felt sympathy. I worked in healthcare. I knew how fast an older person's health could decline. Ethan hesitated, then looked at me. "She asked if we could come stay with her, just for a little while, until she's back on her feet." I didn't even think twice. "Of course," I said. "She's family." If I could go back to that night, that moment, I would tell myself, don't say yes so easily. We moved in a week later. Margaret's house sat at the edge of town, an old white 2-story home with a porch swing and flower boxes that hadn't seen a bloom in years. Inside, it smelled faintly of lavender and lemon polish, the kind of scent that lingers after someone's been cleaning for days. When she saw me walk through the door, Margaret clutched her walker, eyes wide and watery. "Oh, Sara, you're such a blessing," she whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you." At first, she seemed fragile. She'd wince every time she stood, shuffle slowly from room to room, and moan softly when she Saturday. So I took care of her. I cooked her meals. I did her laundry. I helped her bathe. I even massaged her legs with ointment every night. Ethan worked long hours, so most of it fell to me, and honestly, I didn't mind. Helping people was in my nature. But as the weeks went on, I noticed something strange. Whenever Ethan was home, Margaret would groan louder, lean heavier on her cane, sigh dramatically as if each step was agony. But the moment he left for work, she'd perk right up. One morning, I caught her standing straight, reaching easily for a jar on the top shelf. The moment she saw me, she gasped and clutched her knee. "Oh dear, I thought that jar was lower down." It seemed innocent enough, but once you see a lie, you can't unsee it. Still, I told myself I was imagining things. After all, she was my husband's mother. The house soon became her kingdom, and I, her servant. Every day started before sunrise. I'd make her breakfast, tidy the kitchen, run her errands, fold her laundry, and by evening I was too tired to even sit with Ethan and talk. If I didn't do something exactly her way, the coffee too strong, The towels folded wrong, she'd sigh and murmur, "Oh well, I suppose not everyone has the knack for keeping a home." Once, when Ethan came home early and saw me sweeping, she said sweetly, "Sarah insists on doing everything herself. I told her to rest, but she just won't listen." And he believed her. It was subtle, the way she made me small. She'd praise Ethan's efforts and criticize mine in the same breath, always wrapped in that honeyed tone. "You're such a good son," she'd tell him. "Your father would be proud. Sarah, dear, did you overcook the chicken again?" By the second month, I was breaking inside. I'd cry quietly in the shower so Ethan wouldn't hear. But everything changed the morning I walked in and found her dancing. That image, her swaying hips, the lightness in her step, the secret little smile it stayed burned into my mind. And from that moment, I knew one thing. I wasn't crazy. She was faking it. And I was done playing her game. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her dancing light on her feet, humming along. No pain, no cane. I lay awake beside Ethan, listening to his slow, steady breathing. My mind wouldn't stop spinning. How long had she been pretending, and why? What kind of person would lie about something like that about being sick? When dawn broke, I slipped out of bed quietly and went to the kitchen. The house was still. I made coffee, the smell filling the air like warmth I didn't feel inside. When I turned, Margaret was already sitting at the table, cane propped against her chair, her face pale and drawn like she'd painted it that way. "Morning, dear," she croaked. I barely slept. My knees were on fire. I almost laughed. Almost. But I just nodded and poured her a cup. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said evenly, sliding the cup toward her. "You want sugar?" She looked up, eyes sharp for just a second, then soft again. "2 spoons, please." That was the first moment I realized she could sense when I'd started to doubt her, like a cat that feels a storm coming. From that morning on, she became cautious. She'd exaggerate her limp when Ethan came home. She'd moan louder when I was around. Sometimes she'd call out, "Sarah, help me up," right as I'd sit down with my first cup of coffee in hours. I started testing her. One afternoon, I pretended to head out to the store but circled back quietly through the back porch. From the window, I saw her walking perfectly fine from the sink to the living room, no cane, no limp, humming again. I stayed hidden, my heart thudding. She stopped when she heard a car outside, quickly grabbed her cane, and hobbled to the sofa just as I opened the door. "Oh, Sarah," she said, clutching her knee dramatically. "You're back already? Could you hand me my blanket? These joints are just awful today." That day confirmed it. She was lying, but I still didn't understand why. If she hated me, she could have just said so. Why go through all this trouble? I decided to start writing things down. A small notebook I kept in my apron pocket times she walked without help. Little slips in her act. Things she said when Ethan wasn't around. Like the day she muttered, "Some women don't know their place in a man's family." Or the night she told me, while I rubbed ointment into her legs, "Ethan's father was a good man because he always made sure I didn't have to lift a finger. A wife should do the same." She looked at me when she said that, really looked and smiled faintly. That's when I understood. This wasn't about sickness. It was about control. She wanted to remind me day after day that I was a guest in her home, married to her son, living under her rules. And for a while, I let her believe she was winning. A few weeks later, Ethan announced he might be traveling for work. "It's just a few days," he said, kissing my forehead. "Mom will have you here, and I'll be back before the weekend." Margaret smiled from her chair. "Oh, don't you worry, son. I'll keep Sarah busy." Something in her tone made my stomach twist. After he left, things got worse. She started waking me up at dawn, banging her cane against the floor, calling out my name in that trembling voice. "Sara! Oh, Sara! I think I dropped my pill bottle." I'd rush in, only to find her sitting perfectly still, the bottle right on the table. "I thought it rolled away," she'd say with a weak smile. My eyes aren't what they used to be. It was psychological warfare, and she was good at it. But I learned to smile back. I stopped letting her see my frustration. I started being polite, pleasant even, because I was saving my energy for something else. One night, while she was asleep, I searched the house quietly. I needed proof. Her room was meticulously neat lace curtains, floral sheets, and that faint smell of powder and old perfume. I opened her medicine cabinet. Half the bottles were untouched. The pain pills she claimed to take twice a day hadn't been touched in weeks. The labels still crisp. I took a few pictures with my phone. Then I noticed something else tucked into her drawer beneath a pile of scarves. An envelope. Inside were letters handwritten, neat cursive, all from Ethan's ex-girlfriend, Melissa. the woman his mother had always wanted him to marry. Each letter ended with, "I hope you're doing well, Mrs. Collins. Tell Ethan I said hi." My stomach turned. That night, as I lay awake beside Ethan on the phone, hearing his sleepy voice miles away, I knew everything connected. She had never wanted me here. She just needed me close enough to push out. The sickness was her way of anchoring us to her, and slowly tearing us apart. The next morning, she called me to the kitchen. "I was thinking, dear," she said sweetly, stirring her tea. "You might as well stop looking for work while you're here. You're so helpful to me. Besides, Ethan needs someone to take care of things around the house." I stared at her, my hand tightening on the counter. "I already told you I plan to go back to nursing once we move back, Margaret." Her lips curved, but her eyes didn't. "Move back? Oh, Sara, I don't think Ethan will want to leave now that he's seen how much I need him." That was it. The line that told me everything. She wasn't sick. She wasn't helpless. She was playing weak to keep us here. To keep me beneath her thumb. And that's when I decided she might have started this game, but I was going to finish it, quietly, carefully, so that when the truth came out, it wouldn't be me raising my voice. It would be the walls of that house whispering what she really was. The next day, I smiled at her like nothing had changed, but inside, something had shifted. I wasn't her mate anymore. I was her mirror, and she was about to see what it felt like to live inside her own lie. They say when someone's lying to you, it's not the words you should listen to, it's the pauses between them. And after that morning, I began listening very closely to Margaret's pauses. I started noticing every little detail. How her limp would suddenly vanish when she thought I wasn't watching. How her voice grew sharp and steady the moment Ethan's car disappeared down the driveway. How the pain only seemed to appear when she wanted something. She had built her sickness like a script rehearsed lines, timed groans, calculated tears. And I was done being her audience. That weekend, Ethan was scheduled to come home. I decided that was my moment. If she wanted to play innocent, then I'd let her perform with an audience this time. I began by planting small seeds. Friday morning, I told Ethan over the phone, "Your mom seems a lot better. She even made herself breakfast today." "Oh?" He sounded surprised. "That's great news." "Yeah," I said casually. "Maybe she's improving faster than we thought." That night, I told Margaret I'd invited one of my nursing colleagues, Donna, to drop by for tea on Saturday. Her reaction was instant and tense. "Oh dear, I'm not sure I'll be up for company," she said, clutching her knee. "My pain's been unbearable this week." "Maybe Donna could take a look at your exercises," I said innocently. "She's a physiotherapist. It could help you." Her eyes narrowed for a fraction of a second. "Oh, well, maybe just a short visit." Perfect. Saturday came. The morning was warm, sunlight spilling through the curtains. I made tea and set out a plate of lemon cookies. Margaret sat on the couch, a crocheted blanket draped dramatically over her legs. Donna arrived right on time, cheerful, professional, her kind smile disarming. "Mrs. Collins," she said, shaking her hand. "Sara tells me you've been having trouble with your knees." Margaret let out a delicate sigh. "Oh yes, dear. It's dreadful. I can barely stand without my cane." Donna nodded sympathetically. "I completely understand. If you don't mind, could I see how you're walking? Just a few steps, nothing stressful." For a split second, I saw panic flash across Margaret's face. "Oh, I shouldn't," she stammered. "My doctor said," but Donna was gentle and persistent. "Just a few steps, Mrs. Collins. It'll help me see how your muscles are reacting. You can hold my arm." And that's when it happened. Under pressure, Margaret stood slow, cautious, and took 1, 2, 3 small steps. Her limp was exaggerated, almost theatrical. Donna, still smiling, said softly, "Okay, now just relax and try walking normally. Don't think about the pain. Just breathe." For a moment, Margaret forgot herself. She straightened her back, took a few smooth, even steps. "No cane, no limp." Donna's eyebrows lifted ever so slightly. "That's very good, Mrs. Collins. You've got more strength than you think." When I looked at Margaret, her face was pale like someone who just realized she'd been caught. Donna finished politely, thanked her for her time, and left soon after. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Margaret didn't say a word, neither did I. But the look she gave me said everything sharp, cold, full of warning. That night, when Ethan came home, she put on her best performance yet. "Oh, Ethan," she moaned as he entered. "I tried walking for Donna, and now I'm in agony. My poor knees are just failing me." He rushed to her side instantly, worry all over his face. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching her crocodile tears fall. Then she looked at me, a flicker of smug triumph in her eyes. She thought she'd gotten away with it. But I wasn't finished. Over the next few days, I noticed her getting bolder again. Maybe she thought I'd dropped it. Then one afternoon, while I was folding laundry, Ethan got a call from his boss. He had to leave for another overnight trip. I said nothing, just smiled and packed him a small bag, because this time, I had a plan. That evening, after Ethan left, I pretended to head out to the pharmacy. But instead, I parked my car a few houses down and walked back quietly through the backyard. The curtains in the kitchen glowed faintly from the inside light. Through the window, I saw her Margaret standing at the stove, stirring something in a pot. No cane, no grimace. She moved easily, humming softly. I slipped my phone from my pocket and started recording. She didn't see me. She was too busy cooking, tapping her foot to the rhythm of an old tune, even dancing a little as she ladled soup into a bowl. And then I heard her voice, light and smug. "Poor Sara," she murmured to herself. "Doesn't even know her place." I nearly dropped the phone. She sat down, ate her dinner with perfect posture, and when she finished, she reached for her cane and put it next to her chair. The second I heard the floor creak beneath her weight, she started moaning again. Oh, these knees. Lord help me. I had every second on video. Proof. That night, I came back through the front door, pretending I'd just returned. She was sitting on the couch, blanket over her legs, groaning softly. "How is the pharmacy, dear?" she asked sweetly. "Good," I said, smiling. "I got something for you, actually." She perked up slightly. "Oh? What is it?" I sat across from her, pulled out my phone, and pressed play. Her face drained of color as the video played her walking, stirring, laughing, dancing, and then her voice saying, "Poor Sara. Doesn't even know her place." The silence afterward was deafening. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. "I know," I said quietly. "I know everything, Margaret. You're not sick. You're not helpless. You just wanted control." She blinked, jaw tight. "You think you know me, little girl? You think you can come into my son's life and take him away?" Her voice had lost its sugar. It was pure venom now. I stood, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. "I didn't take him away. You pushed him so far from you. You had to fake sickness just to pull him back." Her lips curled. "You don't understand what a real family is. Everything I did for him." "No," I said softly. "You did it for you." For a long moment, we just stared at each other, her eyes full of rage, mine full of clarity. Then I slipped my phone into my pocket. "You can keep pretending if you want, but this time, you'll be pretending alone." And I walked out. That was the first night I slept peacefully in months. But peace doesn't last long when you live with someone who thrives on manipulation. By the next morning, she had a new plan, one that would shake everything in our marriage. Because Margaret wasn't done yet, and I had no idea the storm she was about to unleash. When people like Margaret get caught, they don't apologize. They regroup. The morning after I showed her that video, she acted like nothing had happened. She sat at the kitchen table sipping tea, humming softly like we hadn't stood there the night before, ripping off the mask she'd worn for months. But her silence was different now. It wasn't weakness. It was calculation. I could feel her watching me, not openly, but from the corners of her eyes, like a chess player studying her opponent's next move. And I already knew what she was thinking. If she couldn't control me directly, she'd use Ethan to do it. That evening, when Ethan came home from work, I heard her in the living room. Her voice was soft, tremulous, the same sick voice she used when she wanted sympathy. "Ethan," she whispered, "I think Sarah's angry with me. I must have done something wrong. She's been so cold lately." I froze in the hallway, the laundry basket in my hands. Ethan sounded confused. "Cold? No, Mom, she's just tired. You know she's been helping you nonstop." There was a pause. Then her voice again quieter, breaking just a little. "I try so hard, son, but sometimes I feel like she resents me for needing help. I think she wants to leave." It was masterful. The guilt, the tremor in her voice. Even I almost believed her for half a second. "Mom," Ethan sighed. "No one's leaving. Don't worry about that. Promise?" she whispered. "Promise." When I walked in a few minutes later, they both turned, her face pale and fragile, his full of concern. "Everything okay?" I asked lightly, folding a dish towel. Ethan hesitated. "Yeah, just talking to Mom. She's been feeling a little down." "Oh, I'm fine," she said quickly, touching her son's arm. "Don't worry, dear. I just get emotional sometimes." The look she gave me behind his back, smug, triumphant, made my skin crawl. That was when I realized I couldn't just expose her lies to myself. I had to make Ethan see them, because right now, He was still her son first, my husband second, and she knew it. For the next few days, I played my part again. I cooked, cleaned, smiled, but behind every chore, every polite word, I was watching, waiting. I started leaving small gaps, letting Ethan see the cracks for himself. Like the day she asked me to carry her laundry basket upstairs. Of course, I said sweetly, picking it up. Unless you'd like to do it yourself, Margaret? You did so well walking the other day. Her eyes widened. What? Ethan looked up from the sofa. What do you mean? She stammered. Oh, just a few steps. I was feeling better that day. Better enough to dance in the kitchen? I said lightly, pretending to check my phone. The silence that followed was thick as honey. Dance? Ethan frowned. Mom, what's she talking about? Margaret smiled thinly. Oh, Sara must have misinterpreted something. I looked him straight in the eyes. I have the video if you'd like to see it. Her teacup clattered against the saucer. He looked between us, visibly torn. Sara, I'm sure Mom's doing her best. Ethan, I said quietly. Please, just watch it. That night, he did. We sat together in our room, phone in my hand, the sound of Margaret's laughter filling the air. The video showed everything, her walking, stirring soup, saying, Poor Sara. Ethan's face changed slowly as he watched. First disbelief, then confusion, then something like heartbreak. He rubbed his forehead. She said she could barely move that day. She's been lying, Ethan. For months. He didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he whispered, Why would she do this? I didn't answer. Some truths were too cruel to say out loud. The next morning, he confronted her. I stayed upstairs, listening. Mom. His voice was low, careful. I saw the video. You told me you were in pain that day. Her response was immediate, a gasp, a tremor. A video? Sara's been spying on me? She wasn't spying, he said. You were pretending. Why? Oh, Ethan, she said, her voice rising with righteous hurt. You think I'd pretend? After everything I've done for you? He tried again. Mom? No, she snapped, tears breaking in her voice. That woman has turned you against me. I'm your mother, Ethan. Don't you see what she's doing? She wants me gone. Her voice cracked into sobs. First she spies on me. Then she lies about me. What kind of wife behaves like that? I closed my eyes upstairs, hearing every word, my hands shaking. This was the part she was good at, flipping the script, making herself the victim. I heard the couch creak, Ethan pacing. Mom, just calm down. Calm down? She cried. You don't know what it's like, watching your only son drift away because of some manipulative girl. Enough, Ethan said sharply. Stop. That single word silenced her. I heard him leave the room. Footsteps heavy, the front door slamming behind him. When he came upstairs later, his eyes were red. I need some air, he said quietly. I didn't ask where he was going. The next few days were tense. Margaret barely spoke to me. When she did, her words were clipped, formal. But I noticed something else. The limp was gone. The cane stayed by the door. She moved freely now, no longer pretending. It was almost funny in exposing her. I'd cured her. One evening, I was setting the table when she finally spoke. You think you've won, she said, her voice low. But you've only made things worse. I looked at her calmly. Worse for who? She smiled, cold and certain. Ethan will always be my son. Blood runs thicker than marriage. I leaned against the counter. Maybe. But truth runs deeper than lies. Her eyes flashed, but she didn't respond. That night, Ethan came home early. He sat down beside me quietly. She told me she did it because she was scared, he said. Scared of being alone. Scared I'd forget her if we moved too far away. Did she apologize? I asked. He shook his head. No. She said she did what any mother would do. I looked at him. And what do you think? He stared at the floor for a long time. Then, softly, I think it's time we moved out. I hadn't realized I was holding my breath until it came out as a shaky laugh. Are you sure? He nodded. I love her, but I can't live like this anymore. Neither can you. For the first time in months, I saw a glimpse of the man I married, calm, steady, and unshakable. And that was the moment I knew we were finally on the same side. The next day, we started packing. Quietly, without drama. Margaret watched us from her chair, her face unreadable. You're making a mistake, she said finally. You'll regret leaving me. Ethan paused. No, Mom. What I regret is not seeing through this sooner. And just like that, we walked out of that house, no shouting, no tears, just the sound of the front door closing softly behind us. But what happened afterward, the way the truth came out to everyone else, was something even she hadn't prepared for. Because lies like hers don't stay quiet for long. When we left Margaret's house, I thought the worst was over. But people like her don't let go quietly. At first, there was peace. Ethan and I rented a small 2-bedroom apartment downtown Noisy. A little cramped, but it felt like freedom. I remember the first night we moved in. We ate takeout on the floor, surrounded by boxes. Ethan poured wine into mismatched mugs and said, half laughing, "Feels like we're 20 again." For a few weeks, it almost felt normal. He was lighter, more present. We cooked together, watched movies, and talked about future plans. For the first time in years, the silence between us wasn't heavy. But peace doesn't last long when a manipulator's pride is wounded. It started with the calls. First, a few missed ones from Margaret. Then messages. "Please call me, Ethan. I'm sick again." He ignored them at first. Then came the guilt-laced follow-ups. "You're my only son. I can't believe you'd abandon me like this." And then, the worst kind. "I'm not sure how much longer I'll be around." He panicked that night, pacing the living room, phone in hand. "What if something's really wrong this time?" I said gently. "If you think she's in danger, call an ambulance. But don't go alone." I did. The paramedics went, checked on her, and she was fine. Perfectly fine, just like before. But the next day, I started getting messages too. From his family. "Cousin Emily. Heard you two abandoned his poor mother. Aunt Nora. Can't believe you could be so heartless, Sara." And then the kicker, a Facebook post from Margaret herself. A photo of her sitting on her couch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes downcast. Caption: "When you give everything to your children, but they leave you when you need them most, some people forget who raised them." Within hours, it had over 100 comments. "Praying for you, sweet lady. Shame on them. Some wives are poison." I stared at the screen, shaking. She wasn't just manipulating Ethan anymore. She was rewriting the entire story. That night, Ethan came home from work, exhausted. I handed him my phone wordlessly. He scrolled through the comments, his jaw tightening. "I'll talk to her," he said. But I grabbed his arm. "No, that's what she wants. Another scene. Another excuse to make you feel guilty." He sat down, rubbing his temples. "Then what do we do? Just let her smear you like this?" I thought about it. About every lie. Every look. Every whispered word that had twisted truth into sympathy. "No," I said quietly. "We tell the truth, but we do it our way." I still remember the video we made. It wasn't angry. It wasn't dramatic. Just honest. Ethan sat beside me, speaking calmly into the camera. "My mom has been pretending to be ill for a long time. We've tried to help her. We've supported her. But we can't keep living in a lie. We love her, but love doesn't mean enabling manipulation." Then he showed the clip, the one of her walking, laughing, saying, "Poor Sara." We didn't add commentary. Didn't accuse her of anything. We just let people see. We uploaded it quietly. No tags, no names. Just a title. "When Caring Turns into Control." It wasn't meant to go viral. But it did. Within days, it had hundreds of thousands of views. People shared their own stories. About controlling parents. Emotional manipulation. Guilt. Boundaries. The comments section turned into a flood of empathy and understanding. And then silence. Margaret's page went dark. No posts. No messages. No calls. Ethan didn't celebrate. He didn't even smile. He just sat quietly one evening, staring at his phone. "I never wanted to hurt her," he said softly. "I just wanted her to stop." I reached for his hand. Sometimes truth hurts before it heals. 2 weeks later, there was a knock at our door. I opened it to find Margaret standing there. No cane. No tears. No blanket. Just a quiet, composed woman holding a small box. "May I come in?" she asked. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. She stepped inside, her eyes scanning the apartment. "It's smaller than I imagined," she murmured. "But cozy." I said nothing. She placed the box on the table. "These are your father's things. I thought you might want them." Ethan opened the lid, an old watch, a few photographs, a folded handkerchief. "Has swallowed hard. Thanks, Mom." She looked at me then, really looked at me. There was no venom this time, no mask. "You were right," she said quietly. "I went too far. I didn't move. I didn't trust it yet. She exhaled, her voice shaking. "I didn't know how to stop being needed. When he died, you were all I had left. And when you got married, I thought I was losing you too." Her eyes glistened, and for the first time, I saw not the manipulative woman who'd made my life miserable, but a lonely one who'd built her entire identity on motherhood. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." Ethan's voice broke. Mum, she held up a hand. Don't. Just take care of each other. And then she left. We never saw her every day after that. But she called sometimes calm, measured, short conversations that didn't twist into guilt or tears. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was peace. Months later, as I watched Ethan fix the leaky faucet in our kitchen, I realized something. Sometimes, the worst betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from people who love you too much the wrong way. Margaret didn't want to destroy us. She wanted to keep us close. She just didn't know how to let go without making someone bleed. But truth even painful. Public truth had forced her to face herself. And maybe that was what redemption looked like. Not pretty, not clean, but possible. The night before our anniversary, Ethan turned to me, smiling softly. You know what my mom said today? What? She told me she started volunteering at the community center. Said helping others keeps her from overthinking things. I smiled. That's good. He nodded. She also said something else. Tell Sara she was right about truth running deeper than lies. I laughed quietly, my chest tightening in that bittersweet way it does when something finally closes. Because sometimes, even after all the hurt, all the tears, all the manipulation, the truth doesn't just set you free. It sets everyone free.